All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ready, Set, Smart webinar series, where we are providing continuous opportunities highlighting how SMART can provide a fluid workflow that benefits teachers and students. We'll show you how to create lessons and activities focused on classroom instructional strategies. My name is Melody Yu. I'm a training specialist from Pennsylvania, and this week's webinar, Station Creation Without Hesitation in the Pre-K to 2 Classroom, features Sarah Stork, Professional Development Specialist from Pennsylvania as well. And we also have Dan Shinneman, Training Specialist from Florida, here with us in the chat. We encourage participation, so if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat during the presentation, and we'll either integrate them into the flow or hold them to be answered at the end during our Q&A period. Um, we'll be sharing some resources from today's webinar in the chat as well. And also for participating today, a certificate will be provided to you after you complete a brief survey. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Sarah so that we can dive into today's webinar, Station Creation Without Hesitation.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Melody. And thanks, Dan, for holding down the chat for us as well. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to spend the next little bit of time with you as we are talking about ways you can utilize your smartboard with IQ to create some quick learning stations, learning centers for your students, encourage some of this small group collaboration. So let's dive in. I would love, I think I see some introductions happening there in the chat. So feel free, keep saying hi. Let us know where you're from. But if you wouldn't mind also popping into the chat and giving us some ideas of what are some benefits of station-based activities. So why would you build some learning centers or have some stations set up in your classroom? Today, we are thinking about how we can utilize the smartboard with IQ to create some of these learning stations, but maybe you create learning stations in many different ways, maybe with paper, pencil, or physical objects that students are using. So have a little look at the chat there. Feel free to share out some ideas. And Melody, let me know if there's any ideas that we can share out with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm seeing differentiation. I also like to use stations for engagement. Oh, someone just said fostering student choice, which is awesome.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We know we have many different students in our classroom. So, providing them with a little bit of that choice while they're learning, or, differentiation is so key. How can we provide a variety of different learning opportunities for our students to really help, meet them where they are and support them and encourage them to continue to learn and grow? So, Melody, anything else popping in before we move on?
Yeah, just student-led groups and getting the students moving too, which I think is important as well, right? Getting them up and moving around.
Oh, I completely agree. I know even myself, if I'm sitting and working too long in one spot, I need to get up, moving around, even just, moving a location of the classroom or kind of mixing up the activities that are available for students. So love all those ideas. I also really love to use station-based learning in my classroom so I could have some of those opportunities to work with small groups myself or maybe meet with students one-on-one and just to really, again, meet them where they are, help and support our students as they're learning new concepts. So, wow. Okay. So I'm so excited to talk about what we have for you today. So our goal again for today, we're going to take a look at how we can create some learning stations or some station-based learning for the pre-K to second grade classroom. So some of our younger learners. So we are going to look at some, 3 key ideas here. One idea that we're going to be looking at today is using some graphic organizers with our students. So how can we quickly create maybe some literacy stations for students to interact with some new ideas or to practice, review, extend their learning? Using some ready-made graphic organizers that are already built into the IQ whiteboard. Well, also, how can we use some digital manipulatives with students? So there are some ready-made manipulatives that you can easily, again, add to the board. Maybe they are similar to the physical manipulatives that you have in the classroom for students. I love to use digital manipulatives for literacy. We're going to use some letter tiles today and have fun with those, but we are also going to utilize those digital manipulatives on the board for some of our math concepts. So again, helping students create those visuals, connect to new concepts, and really that movement and interaction. So Melody, I love that was brought up earlier. That gives students that opportunity to move.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And then to kind of round out our time, our last example, we are going to see how we can use all of the expanding space in the whiteboard to create some small group collaboration. So we have one idea for you, but I know you all will come up with some more creative ideas as well. So, all right, if we're ready, let's dive in.
Sounds good.
So our first example here, we've used one of the built-in graphic organizers. There's right inside the whiteboard, the 6-box graphic organizer, and I'm asking students to practice some rhyming words. So we're going to look at each one of these rhyming words and we're going to make some matches. I was able to move the graphic organizer around a bit so I could create some space at the bottom for a picture bank for students. Depending on the task, maybe it's a word bank for them to pull from. But for this task, I wanted students to see the picture, listen to the word, and then to match the rhyming words. Okay, so Melody, what do you think? My first picture up here is a fox. Which word do you think rhymes with fox?
Oh, you know what? I think I see it all the way on the right there. That's got to be at the box.
The box. All right, great job, Melody. Okay, so we also have goat. Let's find the rhyming word for goat.
Goat and boat.
Awesome. So you can see just very quickly, I was able to grab this page. I'll show you how to set this page up. You can create exactly the same task for your students or maybe something slightly different depending on what the focus is for your lesson. Now, I've also given students the opportunity to create their own. So maybe I'm going to ask them to write words in here. Maybe I'm going to have them write, maybe we'll write run, and then we'll think of a rhyming word. Or let's find some images. So, okay, let me move my word over here. I'm going to find some images. So I'm going to go to the left side and there's a little picture icon there with a plus sign. And then I can ask my students to type a word in here. Now, I will tell you this is doing a safe search. So I can have students working at the board and completing that quick search. So what's a word that rhymes with run? Let me look for sun. All right, now, that's maybe more of a photograph of the sun. So Melody, could I add something to my search here too?
Absolutely. So if you want something more cartoony, you can either add the word clip art or cartoon after your search item. And then,
there we go. Maybe that's a little bit more for what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to resize it and move it around. So again, that's leveling up the activity just a little bit for my students. Maybe I want it to be a simple sort and matching task, or maybe I am going to ask them to write a word or find a picture that is a rhyming word. All right, Melody, any other ideas on how you might use this 6-box graphic organizer? If anyone wants to give us any ideas in the chat.
No, nothing in the chat yet, but I was also thinking, you've got these pictures in here, but obviously we could also put, some different words, or maybe even maybe it's not a bunch of different rhymes, but maybe we're just focusing specifically on like un words or an words, like within a word family.
Oh, yeah, we could focus in on one of those word families. All right, awesome. Let's look at one more literacy station idea, and then I'll show you how to build these real quick. All right, so I'm going to take us down to the next page here. And now for this idea, now we've pulled in one of those digital manipulatives that we were talking about when we were previewing what we're going to learn today in our session, what we're going to focus on. So this is a making words activity, but we've added a little fun and interest to this one. So we've added the spinner widget. And so what I would ask students to do is come up to the board and tap and spin a word. Let's see if we can make a real word. All right, trowel. Well, I'm not sure if that's a real word. Let me grab my letter tiles here, see if I'm building a real word. Did we build a real word here?
Seems like a nonsense word to me.
I think it's a nonsense word. All right, so let me move my letter tiles and I can go ahead back to the spinner and try that again. So now we're giving students that opportunity to have a little fun, interact with the spinner, but we also have these digital letter tiles for students to drag and drop onto the page. All right, how about drell? No, still not a real word. So again, I could ask students to continue on and see how many real words they can make with those two spinners. All right, well, let's see here. Dink. I think I finally made a real
There
word.
we go.
All right.
Exciting.
Awesome. There we go. And again, I can ask students to grab those letter tiles and build the words, maybe draw a picture to go along with that. Maybe they're going to build a sentence with this word and they could pick up the pen and continue on. So you can just see just this one activity, we can provide maybe a little bit of that differentiation just inside this one task. All right, so let me show you how to build these pages. It's pretty quick. So I'm going to head over to the left side of my whiteboard. And where I'm going to go, there's a plus sign towards the bottom left. There's a little plus sign in a box. So I'm going to go ahead and tap there. Now I have lots of different page options that I can add, but the first place I'm going to go to build my 6-box example, I am going to go into that purple graphic organizers tab. So once I tap there, I can search through, oh my goodness, there's lots of options in here. You know, maybe you have students working in a content map or brainstorming web, maybe some cause and effect. So you have many different options, but we know that we are going to focus on, Venn diagram. That's my other favorite.
Oh yes, classic.
All right, so, but I'm going to grab the 6-box. All right, now I can then come over and, oh, wait, I wanted to move this around a little bit because I want some of that space to add some pictures. So I'm simply just going to grab my finger here and I can move this around, grab my 2 fingers and make it a little smaller. So you have a very flexible whiteboard space, and it's simply just taking your finger, moving that graphic organizer, and then resizing a bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is add an image to my board here. So I'm going to go ahead and remember, we already found that image icon, but I'm going to use this to now set up my page. So I'm going to tap there and, we already had the sun, but let's go ahead and put a different word in here. Let's look for goat and we'll do a quick search. Again, it's just pulling a safe search. I don't need to necessarily worry about copyright. Here we go. Let me grab my picture. I can easily resize and add that to one of my boxes. Then I'm going to go back in here and let's do another quick search term for boat. Let's find that rhyming word. And then like you said, Melody, I could always add that word clip art or cartoon. And then it might look a little bit more like what students might expect, or maybe I want the actual real photograph. So it's really just depending on what I would like to use in the activity. And now I'm going to put that on the bottom here. All right, let's see here. I think we have a couple quick tips before we move on to our next example. So if I have this picture of the goat, I don't want that picture to move. I do want this boat to move because I want students to sort and drag that into the box. But I'm going to come up to the goat, tap on this drop down, and I'm looking for the word lock. I'm going to lock that picture down because now the students can't move that picture. So now just very easily, I have set up this activity for students. I can add, maybe I'll come over here to my pen, change the color, change the thickness here. And I am going to add the title, rhyming words. Whoop, there we go. I had my text pencil on there. So that is snapping into a text box, which makes that kind of nice and crisp there as well. And again, I'm going to tap, I'm going to lock, and now that is glued to the page. And there we go. Just very quickly, I can start adding my images. I can move this space around to create that picture bank at the bottom, and we're ready to go with this example. All right,
cool.
Melody, any questions, or otherwise, let's look at the next one.
No, you know what? Marisa said, can you lock the entire organizer?
So the organizer itself, if I tap here, it actually is locked onto the space. What is moving around is the entire whiteboard space. That's what I'm moving around. But the graphic organizer itself is actually locked to the page already. That comes in locked.
Awesome.
All right, I'm going to go back to that plus sign, and this time I'm coming into the green tab manipulatives. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on manipulatives, and this time, well, I'm still focusing on some literacy skills, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the making words manipulative right here. And so what we added to this was that spinner. So I'm going to come to the left-hand side again, and underneath that little picture icon, there's little blocks right there. If I tap there, I'm going to go ahead and grab a spinner. Now you're going to notice I have a few extra widgets there in my widgets library. So I'm signed into my board. I've been able to save some custom widgets to my widget library here. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and grab my spinner, kind of go ahead to the side there. Maybe I'm going to resize that just a little bit. All right, so how did I get that menu? How did I select that? Because if we tap in the middle, it will start spinning. I'm going to tap to the just very outside of that spinner area. Now I'm going to click on this little drop down. So I have my little blue circle with that white caret there. And I'm going to go to settings. Now that I've pulled up the settings, this is where I can type in my different word parts here, my onsets here, or beginning parts of the word. Now, just depending on what words we're working on, during our lessons, maybe I would just create single consonants, vowels, melody, any other ideas?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like we had some blends and then those rhyming patterns, but you could also put in those digraphs, right? Like CH, SH, and or you could even have, because you had 2 spinners, you could even have 3 spinners, right? And have one be a consonant, one be a vowel one, and one be the ending consonant to build a full word that way as well.
Ooh, love that. All right, I'm going to put in some of my word parts here, my rhymes.
Very cool. What I really love about these, Sarah, is that, and just to kind of remind everybody, we're thinking of the board as a station, right? So oftentimes I think we end up thinking of the board as a tool for the teacher to use just to teach. But in the context of what we're talking about today, we're saying the kids are using the board. Like this is a station that this is open for the kids to be using on their own. So obviously they'd have to be taught how to use it at first, but afterwards you could kind of let them go.
Right. That's such a good point, Melody. So we're creating just in a couple of clicks here, creating that opportunity for students to come work at the board, whether that maybe it's individually or small groups. We're providing that learning area for students. Awesome. All right. Are we ready for some more examples? Or Melody, any questions before we keep going?
No, I think you're good. Dan's got us in the chat here.
Awesome. So I'm excited. I'm going to head into some math examples. So let's look at another digital manipulative. And truly, this is one that you can simply add to the board just very quickly, but I can have students come up and sort shapes. And maybe I'm going to add some information for students, maybe at the top here, come into my regular pen, maybe I'm going to say, 4 sides, or maybe we're looking for any shapes with 6 sides or 0 sides. So I could give them that information. But also maybe students are going to sort the shapes and then tell me how they're sorting it and explain their thinking. So this one would be super easy to add. I can just come over to the plus sign. Again, I'm in the manipulatives and I can just simply tap sorting shapes. And now I have this page for students to work on. How easy was that?
Perfect.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to come into a couple more math examples here. So now what we're going to do is we are going to spin a random equation. So again, we're using one of the digital manipulatives that you have available, and we're layering on those widgets for some extra and added fun. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on these 2 dice here. Ooh, what are we going to roll? A 4 and a 4, a double stack. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can even have students write the number 4. And let's add 4 more here. Awesome. All right. And then again, I could have students solving that problem, counting all. They could move these over here as well as they are counting, or maybe grabbing some more of those counters. So just a super quick, fun way for students to interact, maybe with addition, but maybe we could level that up a little bit. Are you ready?
All right, show us.
Okay, so I might level this activity up just a little bit. So now I have my 2 dice, for students to tap and interact with. But now we are either trying, maybe we could make the number
Oh.
10. Let's see, I have 4 and a 9. Is that going to make the number 10?
Four and five. I think that does not make
Does
10.
not make 10. All right. Could we do 4 minus 5? Does that make sense?
No, that won't work either.
Not quite. Okay, well, let me grab my addition. So I do have 4 plus 5, but I have some other symbols over here.
Mm.
So maybe some of these symbols I'm using with my students, maybe we are practicing greater than and less than, and we are going to grab that symbol and add it to this new equation that we've created. Or maybe we're saying, oh, that does not equal 10.
Mm.
So again, just very quickly, we've been able to add this a bit of a differentiated activity, right? A similar concept, but now we're mixing it up a little bit, maybe creating a challenge task for students. So, within this same whiteboard file, if I tap on that little number there, students could maybe have a choice of activities for their station. So maybe, students are working on their shape sorting and geometry, or maybe we are working on solving simple addition problems, or maybe we're going to level that up a little bit more. All right. So let's hop in and see how we can make this. Melody, let me know if there's anything I can review before we edit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're okay.
All right. So I am going to go to this plus sign again, where we found all these different manipulatives. I'm going to stay in the manipulatives, but again, I do have the graphic organizers as well. So maybe I wanted to add one of those, but I am going to head into this math expressions, and I'm just going to add this one. So you can see I already have one die on the page, and I have 4 dice here. So I'm going back into my widgets, and I'm going to grab my dice, and I'm going to go ahead and add that right there to the page. Now, maybe I'm going to create that addition number sentence for my students, and don't forget, lock down what you don't want the students to move. So I'm going to go ahead and tap here, and I'm going to lock, and I'm going to tap here, and I'll lock that down. Well, I was just mentioning to Melody earlier, I might want to have, let me grab my text pen here again. I might want to add some numbers to the page. So maybe I'm going to add the 6 and a 5 and a 4 and so on. I could add some numbers for students, and now I want them to drag and drop those numbers. So I could tap, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see what I'm doing. Whoop. Let me just go with just a 5 here, not both those numbers. Let me go ahead and tap here, tap on that drop down. I can actually set any of my text, my inking. I can set images to infinite cloner. So maybe I want to grab infinite cloner. So now I could just really quickly add drag and drop to any one of the whiteboard pages that I've added for students to interact with. So just giving you that little extra tip. We love those little tips, right? Of how I can just easily add to the page. Now, I've added some things to this page here, Melody. So I'm thinking I want to clear quite a few things at one time.
Sure.
So yeah, I know lots of teachers need to be able to do this, and students too. So on the left side under the pen, I have a little dashed box. That's my select all tool. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to grab a few objects, tap on the drop down. Whoop. Let me do that one more time.
And you guys will notice it's not grabbing what has been locked down. So you'll want to keep that in mind.
That's a great point. But then I'm just going to go ahead and delete what I don't need and move my number back down here. So very easily I can use that dash box, just grab a few things and clear it. But typically if I'm creating pages for students to interact with, I might create multiple copies. Again, maybe group 4 can come over here, tap on that little box with a number and find page 4, or maybe I'll move the pages as I'm navigating and facilitating those centers or stations for students. All right. So any questions there? Are we ready to look at our last example?
We do have one question. It says, can you build these things in Lumio to share with other teachers, or can they only be built on the board? And I feel like there's 2 parts to that, right, Sarah?
Oh, Definitely. I love that question. So, actually, at the end, we are going to remind you, and certainly we can talk about it now, but you could create this activity in Lumio so that you could maybe customize it just a little bit more. Maybe you want to add a game to that lesson too, but then share it out with teachers. The other thing you can do is what I am doing now is I am signed into my smartboard. And so I'm actually saving this file as I'm going to Lumio. So I can save my whiteboard files to Lumio to then share out. Just one little note right there. These Dyson spinner widgets that
Mhm.
we're using, those will work on the smartboard. But if you do open up the lesson in Lumio right now, they won't translate to Lumio. So just to clarify that just a little bit, but all of these widgets I can easily use up on the board. If I share the lesson with another teacher and they open it up on their whiteboard, the widgets will work for them. So just giving you that little piece of information there.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
All right, so I am going to go ahead. Let's look at our last example. All right, so now I want students to create a visual for their learning. So we're going to start talking about the seasons. This is always one of my favorite units of study with my students. We got to talk about, how the leaves are changing, maybe what clothes we wear, what's the weather like in the different seasons. I know my favorite season I popped up here as that
Mhm.
first group space here, and that is fall. And I just found this great picture that really, really makes me think of fall and how it looks like outside right now. All right, so what I'm asking students to do is work together collaboratively in small groups. And now they have all this space up on the whiteboard to write their thoughts. What would you see, hear, feel in fall? So once group one has finished, and again, they could always add images or draw or write. Once group one is done, I am going to have group two
Ah.
come on up. And now we're able to, there we go, add a space here for group two to brainstorm what they know about winter. I'm really thinking we might turn this then into a writing selection that we're going to create after this, or a writing project. And again, there's my seasons, and I have group three for spring. And finally, I have group four over here. Now, once all of my groups have worked on the space here, I'm going to take my two fingers and I'm going to look at the whole page. And now
Wow.
we just on one canvas. We can have students working in those small groups and then all come back together and review. What did your group find out in your space, and what kind of ideas
Mhm.
did you gather in there? All right, so a page like this would be very simple to set up. Again, I'm going to the plus sign in the bottom left-hand corner, and I just want a blank page. Earlier I was thinking, oh, maybe I could have created this kind of activity in a thinking frame, or maybe I would grab a Frayer model, but I am going for a blank white page. I want all of that great space for students to create. So I'm going up to just a plain whiteboard. Now we know we also have our page templates down here as well.
Mhm.
So, I could give students some lined paper or that handwriting paper. Definitely another way to create a station or a center for students. They can use this handwriting paper, but I'm sticking with the blank white page for right now. And what I'm going to do next is change kind of the size of my space. So I'm just looking at one part of it right now, and I'm going to grab my finger. I'm going to drag that down, and you can kind of see that behind there, I have my 9 tiles. I know it's hiding a little bit behind the page templates there, but now I'm going to come up to the corner. Okay. And this is where I'm going to add the number 1, and then I'm going to go over and I am going to do a quick search for fall.
Very cool. Oh, those are some great pictures too.
I know, I love these great pictures popping up, really making me think of fall. Oh, there we go. There's the one picture that I wanted. Again, I'm going to resize, move it to where I want it to be, and I'm going to go ahead and lock that down. All right,
Cool.
and again, I'll move over and I can see where I'm moving on the space. So I know, okay, now I'm heading into the other corner for group 2. All right. Now, Melody, any other ideas on how you might use the space like this for small group collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the same way, right? You want it to be each small group is in a different corner, but Maybe instead of seasons, you're collecting words that they know, like words you know how to read, or maybe sight words that you know. Maybe you're collecting prior knowledge based on one topic, right? If we're learning about severe weather, like what kind of severe weather storms do those kids know about? So you could kind of do all sorts of things, and then at the end of it, you can, just like she did, you'll pull out to the whole page and then be able to see what work your students accomplished during that whole time, that whole period or day.
Love that. All right, let's just add one more picture here.
Yeah. Actually, as you're adding that too, I always like to say, don't be impatient like me and tap like 5 times, you guys. If you do that, you'll get 5 copies of the same beautiful meadow.
Go
Just needs one tap.
There we go. And I'm locking that down. And then in the middle, I'll find the middle of my page. Again, I can use that little guide at the bottom. And now I can write the word seasons. And so now we can create the label for this poster that students are going to be creating together.
Yeah. You know what, Sarah? Somebody else was asking, can you change the color of the text, like the text pen?
Oh, yeah. So I am going to go ahead and grab, I'm on my text pen. Maybe I want this to be green. So I'm going to choose my color, and then I can write the word season. And then that should be green. There we go. And you'll notice earlier when I needed to fix my text, I took my finger and I just tapped 2 times, and then my little keyboard pops up. I know I need to use that a lot. The other tip I'm going to give, because I know that I'm going to want my students to know this tip. In the little pen, I've turned on finger inking. And so then students can come up and actually use their finger to write and draw, which helps to get more students working at the board as well. So you do have the option to use your finger as a pen as well. I can just toggle that right on in that pen.
Awesome.
I'll toggle it off so I can move objects around.
That's right.
Melody, any other questions there?
No, looks like we're good in the chat.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Let's kind of recap a little bit what we talked about. So feel free, as we're kind of winding down here, feel free to keep popping questions in. We're happy to stay on and answer some additional questions. But hopefully now you feel ready. You found some ideas. Just kind of as a little refresh, we went into this plus sign on the bottom left of the screen. We went in there quite a few times. We tapped on that plus sign and we found a blank whiteboard page. We found graphic organizers in here. We found the manipulatives, and we easily added all of these to our board, and we created quite a file of different pages for students to interact with in small groups at the smartboard, right? So really using the smartboard as a station or a center for students to interact with. All right. Oh, and you know what? Everything my students are doing on the board is saving as we go. So all of that work they've contributed to on the page will be there. And then that way I can easily come back and review what students have worked on during our center or station time or our rotations. All right, so hopefully now you're ready to maybe create a literacy station for your students using graphic organizer. Maybe you are ready to use a manipulative, expand that whiteboard space with students. And then bonus, try to add one of those widgets to the board. I see the chat's getting pretty busy, so hopefully we're having a moment to think about what are you ready to try with your students. Melody, what are some of the ideas coming in?
So looks like we're getting more questions and curiosity.
Oh, okay, great.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll take
All right,
guys. What will you guys try with your students? There's a lot of questions about space on the board, actually, because I think that everyone's really excited to be creating files and running them on the board there.
Awesome. All right, so any questions that we can answer right now? Or are we chatting in the chat with those questions?
I think we're in the chat. Oh, Donna just said math addition activities. Donna's
Awesome.
excited to try.
Exciting. All right. Yep. Looks like Dan is on it in the chat. Fantastic. All right. So feel free, let us know. Maybe you're thinking of some things that you're ready to try with your students, or maybe you do have a few additional questions that are starting to pop in. Like I said, we're happy to stay on. This question came up earlier, but we did want to take a moment just to remind you that Lumio is another opportunity to create some station-based learning that you can easily open up on your smartboard with IQ. Again, you can sign into your smartboard using Google or Microsoft, and you can find those Lumio files right in your files bubble, so you can use those with students. What else is Lumio going to allow you to do? Lumio will let you import and combine your own existing files. So if you have templates or you have PDF graphic organizers, you could bring those into Lumio and then maybe layer on some of these interactive elements we talked about. The other thing I love to use in Lumio is to create some game-based activities. And again, those are amazing stations or centers for students because they're self-checking as they go. So that can be another great tool for you. And in the Lumio library, there's even more templates, manipulatives. Maybe you're looking for 10 frames. Those are in there. So lots of other opportunities. So all you need to do is head over to lum.io and you can get started for free. So we'll pop that link into the chat as well. And, like we've been saying, feel free to ask some of those questions. I'll chat right now about our resources and the survey link, and then I will head in to that chat or check in with Dan and Melody and see what else we can answer. So we have some resources for you, this bit.ly link that will be coming into the chat for you. We do have our IQ toolkit, which will give you some more instructional ideas. So today we really were focusing on, I have that linked in there. Today we were focusing on, those pre-K through second grade. So for our younger learners, those center-based activities, but our IQ toolkit will give you additional ways that you can utilize your smartboard with students, again, as that student tool. We have our Smartboard with IQ reference guide linked on here, as well as a reminder to head into our Ready, Set, Smart webinars and register for more webinars. If you're interested in that Lumio that we were talking about, we actually have a launch in the Lumio scheduled for this week, so you can get started with Lumio. And then just a big thank you and shout out to any smart ambassadors that we have on the call with us today. So feel free to let us know and definitely let us know that in the survey. But thank you for joining us. And if you're interested in learning more about our global community, make sure you click on that link and learn more. We also have our social channels, Facebook, find us on Twitter or our YouTube channel, and always be sure to tag #WeAreSmart and connect with us. So we are looking forward to hearing from you in those ways that you might utilize your smartboard with students. And then just to round out what we have for you, we do have just a quick survey. This bit.ly link will take you to the survey to provide us with some feedback from today's session. We are always reviewing that feedback and then thinking about how we can create some new opportunities for everyone. To learn more about your smartboard, if you want to learn more about something like Lumio or Notebook. And then once you complete the survey, you will get a little link. You can copy paste that link into your browser, and then you can have access to your PD certificate. So I will thank everyone for joining us today. And like we said, I will pause then and answer any questions that still need to be addressed. But if you have what you need out of today's session, I want to thank you for your time. Today, I really had a fun time exploring some centers and the station-based learning that we can create for students using the smartboard. So thank you, everyone.